So I don't quite know what happened. I just did quite a long and I thought quite interesting little vloggy video last half hour. I've done my hair, no makeup, no safety net, no nothing, but it was simply because I wanted to memorialise yesterday now, 28th of August 2018, 28/08/18, 5 years since my Ascension experience. I've now got the flashing light, which is just not helpful. It all went very swimmingly until I went to download it and it just went poof. So I don't know what I did there, not to worry. I can remember most of what I was sort of going on about, but I will stay at the top of this. If you're not interested in what I've got to say, switch off, you know. Those of you who are watching might get something from it, I don't know, but for me it's memorialising my Ascension experience. 5 years ago, I had a most extraordinary individual. I just need to adjust that. It's not happening, is it? Spirit is dictating otherwise, I reckon. Ooh, wrong one. Let's do it that way. That looks better. Oh, blimey, you can see me in the full horrors now. So yeah, the 28th was my 5th anniversary of the Ascension experience. Some of you may know what it is, some of you may not. Some of you may have had your own experiences of being taken on an experience. And without going essentially into too much detail, it was carried out by an extraordinary woman called Dr. Judy, and that's all I'll say about her. I think I've popped up pictures of her, because 5 years on now she'll be wherever she is. It was the full-on connection to the angelic realm, and something which I do for other people now, and you certainly need someone to take you through it, and it can be kind of life-changing and certainly extremely memorable. It was the first time I experienced angel tears, and I experienced what biblically would have been called quaking, which isn't fear or anything else. Your body shakes, and there's nothing you can do about it at the sight of what you see. It's a quaking experience. So 5 years on, and 5 years on, what a year this has been. Thankfully it's going to settle down next year, then 2020 is going to be kind of exciting and interesting. The year after that's going to settle down a bit, and then 2022, hey, you know, going to be as nuts as this year and some. So here at the Namaste group at Turns, you may remember, those who know me, back in 2015, right at the start of it, I opened the doors and started doing healing exchanges, and since then it's evolved absolutely amazingly, with some awesome people coming through the door, all of whom, and they know it, and they know I say this, they've all come through the door with issues of some degree or another. Some have had very tough life journeys, but they're all stepping into the spiritual zone, arena, whatever that might be, and the healing arena, in whatever capacity that might be. And we're not talking about hands-on healing all the time. Some of it's talking therapy, counselling, some of it's holistic and reflexology and all the various sort of disciplines that there are in all these forms of holistic and healing practices. My particular area, but it spans an awful lot, is the angels and the archangelics, and I teach with another tutor a simple and straightforward course that directly connects you to them or gets you more aware of the angelics, etc. And there are other teachers out there. There's quite a few people doing this sort of thing, but none of us is the same, and none of us teach the same. It's been a crazy year with all these confluences and connections and planetary alignments and people accelerating in their knowledge, experience, belief and everything. And it's been wonderful, but it has been full on and extraordinary and very powerful and quite weary making. So I'm looking forward to September, which is my sabbatical September, where I'll be doing stuff for me, but I've no doubt it's going to involve student practice and other sort of experiences, bringing people through to teach and to learn from them. And there's the key thing, you know, as tutors and guides and gurus and wisdom givers and whatever, we're learning all the time, and I've learned so much myself this year. One pretty startling one was the native experience, shall we say, the Native American experience, where back in the day John David Parker was the first guy to see through his eyes, through calling bear's eyes, great bear, big bear within me. And a few years on from that, it is a few years, at last I've been absolutely blessed with Big Bear assimilating with me and being within me. It's hard to work out the words to use on that, but it's a very huge honour, and it's very powerful. And when you recognise that he is within full on and takes you over and talks through you and performs things, ceremonies and whatever in pure native way, that was only 2 weeks ago, and you know, we're all learning, and boy is that a learning curve. And the respect that you have to show each other and to allow that to happen, absolutely amazing. For me, this is kind of about me this time. There's no ego involved, but you know, sometimes one talks about one's own life journey. We've all got our life journeys. None of us have necessarily had an easy one. None of us, and I'm no exception, with tough times back in the jail days, experiences that I'm glad I had, but at the time were very tough. But maybe the guy I am now, from the grammar school boy and the posh mummy's boy, well, I'm still a bit posh and I'm still a mummy's boy, whether she's in spirit or not, you know. But it's all made me how I am today. It's all part of the journey, and you turn any negatives into a positive. So yeah, one heck of a year. And as I say, I was making this video particularly because it is the anniversary of the Ascension experience. That's the best thing I can sort of say, and that's very, very, very meaningful to me, because it's always a messenger that brings you these things, and I've had many messengers. And there's an expression I've used this year, and there is a book out there called Many Lives, Many Masters. I'll hold my hands up, I've never read it, because for me personally, the title says it all. And that's actually developed for me into Many Lives, Many Masters, many jigsaws, many ones. Because there are many jigsaws in our lives, and there are many ones that come in to complete the jigsaws in our lives. The other expression, courtesy of my old mucker Nick Eaton, is we're going to need a bigger boat, which covers all areas, because we are going to need a bigger boat for all that's going on, and it's not necessarily an ark, although that's quite a good analogy. And for those of us who swim around the UK coast and the white sharks are around, we are going to need a bigger boat and all. Good luck with that one. Won't mention any names. So it's been intense. The amount of people that have come through the door since I opened it in January 2015 has been extraordinary. We've had moments where it's gone a little quieter, so we've settled down, and then you only got to put it up to them, and in they come again, and the flow is continuous. A lot of teaching going on, a lot of learning going on, and some absolutely amazing things happening. There's a word I wouldn't have used some years ago, but actually I am seeing miracles happening. I am seeing miracles. Back in the day you would think, well, that's a bit Christ-like, we don't want to go there, you know what I mean? But not just myself, by any means. There's a lot of people doing some absolutely extraordinary things. And we don't so much shout about it. Never have, never will, actually. We just do what we do, and we share it amongst us, and we share to a degree out in the world on social media, at least I do. But I don't do the write-ups anymore, because there's no need for it. It's a very personal experience for all the people, whoever they are, and there's a lot of them, multidisciplined. There is the holistic, there is the healing, there's every aspect of healing going on. We're not spiritualists. We are not spiritualists. This is a personal opinion on spiritualism. I have spiritualist friends. I have spiritualist medium friends. I have spiritualist healer friends. But it isn't for me. And whilst I don't want to be particularly controversial as such, for me personally, I don't subscribe to what could be viewed as a religion with its hierarchy, and also based on the Hydesville thing that happened back in around 1888, 1889. And when you investigate that, it's kind of curious, because these girls in Hydesville actually subsequently admitted that they were being frauds. But then they changed their mind and said, no, we weren't actually frauds, we just sort of made that up. So for me, spiritualism has a basis in quicksand, rather. And I really don't want to kick off an argument about this, do you know what I mean? Each to their own, and, you know, as long as folk are doing things with the right intent and without ego, then in a sense it doesn't matter quite what they call themselves. But I don't involve myself directly with spiritualism and spiritualists. And actually, on that note, I won't name names because it's going to make too much controversy, but there has been a very large element of disenablement within that movement by a couple of people who I have known well. And they don't do spiritualism any favours. I might explore it more in another vlog, but I have to be ready for the backlash that's going to be inevitable there. And sometimes you do have to speak your truth and say, hey, actually, that's wrong what these people are doing. These people are known to quite a few of you. And one day I'll do it, maybe not gone midnight on the 29th of August. There's also a lot of uber politics going on social media, which I've dabbled in because I do take an interest in what's going on. We do live in biblical times. I know that's normally referred to as 2,000 years ago, but we're living in biblical times right now with the exodus of so many disenfranchised people across the world and different cultures being so damnably almost exterminated. You've got the Syrian crisis, you've got the ongoing Israeli and Palestine crisis, you've got the Venezuelan crisis, you've got the Americas pulling themselves apart. But there are biblical exoduses happening in Yemen. 22 million people, men, women and children, right now, in 2018, 22 million people are displaced in the Yemen because the Saudi government have decided that they don't like the Houthi rebels, as they call them, and so they're bombing fairly indiscriminately, well, totally indiscriminately, as all wars do. There is indiscrimination and people die. People die. Children die, women die, men die. Very often it's soldiers who die with their comrades, or see their comrades die. And it's not nice, the evil that man does to man. And you cannot and should not take sides, which on that note as well, here comes controversial, because very recently I was called by a friend a rabid anti-Semite. My life, was that interesting. Certainly in the back of my mind, I had to smile when I saw it, but it actually said more about the individual than it did about me, because I am not an anti-Semite. I'm certainly not a rabid anti-Semite, and I position myself on neither side. You can't. It's man doing evil to man. The Israelis doing evil to the Palestinians, and the Palestinians doing it in return. The evil that the US does around the world, entering sovereign states for regime change. The British government supporting the Saudi Arabian government with arms, who are then bombing Yemen. It's going on all over the world, and these are troubled times. I don't mean to be negative about this, because it will resolve itself. But I would reckon in general in politics, if we in the West kept the heck out of the Middle East, they will find peace. It's the only way that they all know that. But for now, thousands and millions of people are going to die and be disenfranchised, and the horrors of what we do down here as humans is played out in front of us, and it's become commonplace to see the horrors on our television screens. And then, of course, it comes very close to home when something happens in this country. Well, it wouldn't have happened in this country if we hadn't gone diving in to areas that we don't understand the cultures of. You can study all sorts of religious books and whatever, but as a dear friend of mine back in the day in the service said, a cat may be born in a kipper box, but it doesn't make it a fish. That might not make sense first of all, but actually it's very true. So for example, you know, as a white man I could go down to Africa and believe that I understand voodoo, for example, but that won't make me a black man. That won't make me a voodoo expert. You study these things and try to get an understanding of it, but, you know. Oh, Theresa May, I saw on the TV today, trying to dance in Africa. I mean, how embarrassing was that? Seriously, how embarrassing was it to see our Prime Minister trying to be trendy and to integrate with the culture and making a complete fanny of herself, you know? Embarrassing. Boris Johnson, what a complete knob that man is. There are good men and true out there, but at the end of the day, whatever the government we have in this country, there's still the deep state behind it all. It doesn't matter who the puppets are in front of the screen. The deep state is at work, as it is in America, and to a lesser extent in Russia, because, you know, you have the deep state right there in front of you of Vladimir. It'll work itself out. Mother Earth will sort herself out without our help. The chosen will be gone on the mothership, and the others will go into the fires of awfulness. That's my thoughts anyway. I might expand on that sometime. I'm not a nutter. I just know what I know, I believe what I believe, and I've learned what I've learned. And I teach and guide where I can. So, yeah, anniversary of the Ascension, my Ascension, awesomeness. You never stop learning. The sky's the limit. Spirit is the limit. Good on all you light workers out there. God bless you all. We're all from one. It's all one divine energy, whether it's Native American, whether it's angelic, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's whatever, Muslim, Methodist, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all one divine energy, so let's all try and get along. But we won't. Not as long as man does evil to man, wherever it is in the world. And even in this country. Anyway, on a happier note, all will be well, eventually. It's a bit shitty this life, and then we die. How happy is that? Namaste, aho and amen, and travel safe whoever you are and wherever you are. Nighty night. Now let's try and get this right here. I'm being very honest now, I'm running out of time. So I'm going to press that button and see what happens.